Hello everyone, welcome to a session on the functional nature of JavaScript. I am your session host Faiza, and you can follow me on my Twitter and Medium to learn about my recent web development projects. I'm sorry about the cracked voice. I have laryngitis, but I have my tea here with me and I'm really excited to host this session. Alright, so let's begin. JavaScript is called a functional programming language. Now, what does that mean? In JavaScript, functions are the primary unit of execution. The concept of class was introduced in JavaScript only in 2015, and even a class is just a special function. JavaScript's functional nature was very convenient because historically the language was principally used as a scripting language in the browser. As you'll get to see in this lesson, functions in JavaScript are powerful, versatile, and they are considered first-class objects. Now we will look at the 5 capabilities of JavaScript functions that makes them be first-class objects. We will first look at a few ways JavaScript functions are declared. In fact, several ways to declare a function in JavaScript. But for this session, we're going to only look at 2, and specifically, we're going to talk about function literal. Now, if you look at a function declaration statement of JavaScript, it's very similar to other languages. You basically have the function keyword and you give the name of your function, you have your parameters, and in this case we are just adding the 2 parameters and returning the result. And we can invoke this function by calling it by this name. So function literal or function definition expression is basically very much similar to function declaration statement, except you do not have a name for your function. So this is also called an anonymous function, and in the second point we will talk about the importance of function literals or function anonymous functions. In looking at the second capability of JavaScript functions, we will see how the anonymous function in the previous example can be assigned to variables, and also how JavaScript functions can be assigned to properties of other objects. So now let's look at a few examples. So first one, we will look at how an anonymous function can be assigned to a variable. So here we have a variable called variable func, and we have assigned an anonymous function here. So this function does not have a name, which is why it's an anonymous function, and it's been assigned to a variable. Now, if you want to invoke this function, we can just call this variable. We could also store this variable's result in another variable. So there are multiple ways you can see. And this anonymous function actually can even have a name. In some cases, you'll also see it be assigned to a variable and then the function even having a function name. All right, so now let's take a look at another example where we'll see a function being assigned to a property of an object. So first, let's look at the 2 objects. We have 2 objects here, test player 1 and test player 2. And the objects have certain properties. And you can see there's a name, there's a score, rank, and these are string properties with numbers. And then we have this one property called test player details. And it's been assigned a function. And you can look at this function definition right here at the top. And it just alerts us with the name, this dot name, which is right here. So when we assign the property of an object a function, it is called a method. So in these 2 objects, we have the same method that is being assigned to the property testPlayerDetails. Now, if we want to invoke this particular function here, testPlayerDetails func, then what we have to do is we use the dot product and we call on the property name. So we do testPlayer1 dot testPlayerDetails, and we get the return result is Susan, which is what the function should return. For the third capability, we will see how JavaScript functions can be passed as arguments to other functions. Take a look at the third example. So here we have two functions, nameFunc and alertFunc. So nameFunc function has only one parameter called value, and basically we're returning a hello, and we include value here. So it should just return us a string. And in the second function, we see that we have two parameters, and we have an alert as our alert here for this function. And we see that from here, from the alert, we can tell that foo must be a function because foo also has a parameter that is being listed here as a, which is the first parameter of alertFunc. So what will happen is we'll call foo and we'll give it an argument of a, which is the first parameter of alertFunc. So when we call alertFunc, we see that our first argument is a string called world. So a is world, and then nameFunc is the function foo that is our second argument. And what we do here then is we take nameFunc and we include world here as its a, which is its value. So nameFunc is called and world becomes the value. So we will return hello world. And this is what we get here. So basically this is how you can add functions as arguments to other functions in JavaScript. Now we will see how JavaScript functions can even be used as return values of other functions. In this example, I'm just going to go over the concepts rather than go into the nitty-gritty details. So we can see here that we have one function that is defined called generateGetMethod, and we have an object called accessors that has properties, and we can see that generateGetMethod is then used as a method to the properties of this object. So if we look at this function generateGetMethod, we see that the value that is returning is not anything that we've seen in the previous examples. It is in fact an anonymous function, what we had discussed in the first example. So we can see that function literals can also be returned as return values for JavaScript functions. For the last capability, we will look at how JavaScript functions can possess properties that can be dynamically created and assigned. Last example, so let's create a new object called testObject, and also a new, we have a variable called testFunc, and it's been assigned to an anonymous function. And both, like you see, our object is empty. So we can dynamically add a property called prop and give it a value, a string value of I love to the object. And this is pretty common. We've seen it be done to objects. But in JavaScript, we can even do this to functions. So here we have the anonymous function, function that has been assigned to testFunc, and we can assign a property similarly, like how we assigned a property to the object, and assign it a string value of JavaScript. So we can see that functions in JavaScript are very much similar to objects. So as you guys saw through these examples, functions in JavaScript are very different from functions in any other language. They are very versatile and powerful, For example, they can be assigned to variables, and they can have methods, they can have properties. They basically are very similar to objects, which is why they are called first-class objects in JavaScript. And best of all, they're callable. So, all right. I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson and learned something new. So this basically ends our session on the functional nature of JavaScript. And I hope to see you guys next time. All right. Bye.